I just wanted to jump on here, do a little video to talk about my inspiration for starting Elevated Wellness and to become a integrative healing practitioner. So in 2019, I experienced some health issues of my own. I got diagnosed with interstitial cystitis. This all started from a UTI. So I'd had multiple UTIs in the past before, so this one didn't feel any different to me. I went to the doctor, I got a round of antibiotics as I had in the past, and when I'd finished taking that course, I noticed that the pain was still there. When I decided to go back to the doctor, she said that maybe I was resistant to that specific type of antibiotic because I'd had it so many times, and she gave me a stronger course to do. So I went home, I took that course of antibiotics, and by the end of it, I still had pain. At this time, I was a little bit confused. I started freaking out a little bit because I was unsure how I could have this many rounds of antibiotics and still have an infection. I went back to the doctor and she explained to me that we were going to do another test to see if the bacteria had cleared or if I still had a UTI, and she gave me another round of antibiotics and said, take these, go home, I'll give you a bell in a couple of days and we'll go from there. 48 hours had passed and she gave me a call and she said, Emily, you have no UTI. The bacteria is gone. Just give your body a few days. Maybe it needs time to just settle down. So I just kind of took that advice. I thought, okay, I tried to carry on doing normal things as you normally would, but it just got a bit much. The pain was still there. It was still there in full force and I could not understand why. So at this time, I was feeling a little bit frustrated, but I didn't really know what to do. So I went back to the doctor. I explained to her what was going on, that it was starting to affect me. By this stage, I think it had been probably almost a month of having it by the time I'd done the 3 rounds of antibiotics. So I was starting to feel a little bit anxious and uncertain on what was going on. She decided to refer me to a urologist. She said it was a little bit out of her scope. She wasn't sure, didn't really want to give me more antibiotics because there was no infection, but she wasn't sure what to give me. So I just kind of went home with that information and waited for a letter from urology. In this time, I decided to Google some symptoms I was having, looked at Facebook pages, seeing, just YouTubing any information I could have on why I would still have a UTI with no bacteria. Something that popped up was pelvic floor dysfunction and interstitial cystitis, as well as a bed infection, candida, gut issues. There was a lot going on. The ones that really stuck out to me the most were probably the pelvic floor dysfunction or interstitial cystitis. But in saying that, I wasn't sure why, because pelvic floor dysfunction can be caused by so many things. I didn't think it just happened randomly. I'd done nothing different, but I was going to the gym a lot, so I just wasn't sure. So I decided myself to book in with the gynecologist. I went to the gynecologist and he said to me, before I'd mentioned pelvic floor dysfunction or anything, he said, I think it's a case of cystitis. I think you have interstitial cystitis. He explained it all to me. He said that it's more common than you think. I'd never heard of it before. So when I heard that I had a diagnosis now of something, I was a bit taken back, especially because it's something related to the bladder. It's quite a personal thing to talk about. You know, if you have a broken arm and somebody sees your broken arm, they know that you've hurt your arm. They go, are you okay? Are you like, there's sympathy there. And it's not that there's no sympathy for someone who has an internal issue, but it's not something that you just can, if I found it hard people to understand what I was going through, especially because it looked like I was living such a happy wellness life. I was going for walks all the time. I was going to the gym. I was eating well. I had just bought a house recently. I had a great partner at the time, amazing friends. I had a good job. Everything in my life felt like it was aligning, and then my health felt like it was declining. And when he spoke to me about cystitis, he told me some pills that I could get online called D-Manos. If you've had interstitial cystitis or experience with UTIs, you probably know what this is. So he said you could try this and see how you go, otherwise wait for your urologist appointment. So I took some tablets that he gave me. They might have helped a little bit. To be honest, I don't know if they really did. I think I was just in so much pain at that time. I really needed something a little bit more. I started researching like crazy. I was going on Facebook groups and commenting on things and looking for answers and reading Reddit threads and Googling and YouTubing, so much information that it was becoming consuming. My mindset started going very downhill. I started feeling depressed. I started having really, really bad thoughts, and I just consumed everything around me. I couldn't do anything really. I didn't want to do much things. I felt like I was boring to hang out with because I couldn't drink or I couldn't do anything with my friends that I used to be able to do with enjoyment. And another issue for me, or concern I should say, is that I wanted to have a baby at some point, and so did my partner. This was something we did really want to have, and I was really scared that this was going to be a deal breaker for me, that I wasn't going to be able to have one if I was in this much pain. I would sleep with heat packs on me. I would drink so much water. I took an unhealthy amount of baking soda because I saw that that can help, and I was just really in a negative mind frame trying to deal with this. And I just kept researching, and by the time I got a letter from urology explaining that they could see me for an appointment, they would likely do I think it's called a cystoscope or a bladderscope, where they put a camera in your bladder and they check for anything that's going on in there. From what I'd read in the groups that I had joined on Facebook, people who had interstitial cystitis, they had done them and it was horrifically painful, and I just decided that it wasn't going to be for me. And also, having the diagnosis didn't really matter to me because I had the pain. I didn't need to cling on to the diagnosis. I just wanted to feel better. So this is when I just started researching other things. I started looking into, could it be gut issues? Could it be candida? Candida is a massive thing that always comes up. I see it all the time. I hear people talking about it all the time. Everybody thinks they have candida. I'll go into another video on this, but I started working with a naturopath, and because I had convinced myself I had candida, I think I'd convinced her that I had it. We didn't run any labs, but this is where we started doing some detox work on my body. We started going in for the kill on things that I didn't even know if I had, and it was about 6 to 8 months of this, and I got a lot sicker. I was in pain, I felt weak, I was tired. We did a food allergy test, which came back and said that I was pretty much allergic to every single thing you could ever eat. So that also threw me down the rabbit hole of going gluten-free, dairy-free, like no processed foods. I didn't eat meat that much. I was consuming a lot of high oxalate foods, a lot of foods that actually can irritate the bladder, but I didn't know this at the time. So I pretty much was doing more damage than good, but I didn't know this, and my naturopath didn't know this. She was amazing. She really tried to help me, but it just didn't work, and that's okay. We tried and it didn't work. But so after about the 6 to 8 months of trying that, I think I was just like, this isn't working. I'm gonna have to go back to doing it on my own. I'm spending too much money and I'm feeling really average. So I started going back on my own. I started buying random supplements. Aloe vera was a massive one that I saw everybody saying was amazing. Didn't work for me, but that's okay. And then I one day was in a Candida Facebook page and I came across Sandy. Sandy is the practitioner that I worked with, and what really resonated with me is that she had healed herself from interstitial cystitis, and that was enough for me to sign up with her. When I started working with her and understanding things about the body, I found it really interesting. And I found it really interesting that the information she provided me with was not information I had heard from any specialist I had seen. I'd seen a urologist, I'd seen a gynecologist, I'd been back to my doctor multiple times, and I'd never heard anything about oxalates or ammonia or any of the information that she provided me with to do with interstitial cystitis. I'd never heard of it. And that was really when I started thinking, okay, alternative medicine might be the way for me. I think none of this stuff over here has worked for me, so I need to start looking at what options for what can work for me. And when I started working with her, I to this day still believe that is the best thing I ever did. And I've done a lot of amazing things in my life, but I think that was definitely probably number one, because I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't do that. So that's where my passion for wellness really kicked in, and I've wanted to be a practitioner for years. I have always sort of found a way to talk myself down or talk myself out of it, not being sure. And now that I do have a little boy who is just the absolute light of my life, I have really come to found that he is my inspiration for wanting to chase my dreams, wanting to do everything that comes to my mind. I have all these ideas and I want to fulfill all of them. I want him to grow up and see his mum did everything she wanted to do, so he can then do that too, and he can feel like he doesn't need to question himself and he has options, and hopefully he can take on some more mindful choices as well, because I think that's the biggest thing, that when you are suffering, it's really hard to understand that you do have options. Doesn't matter what diagnosis you have, just going to the doctor and accepting that you might need to be on antidepressants, nerve blockers, or this is going to be it for you for the rest of your life, it's not true. That was my story. I thought that was going to be my story. I knew I never wanted to take medication. I knew that I didn't want to do this, but I found it really hard to figure out how I was going to be able to not do that. But I just kept pushing. You got to keep searching. You've got to keep finding a way, because there is always options. And I just have found with Western medicine that they always just want to produce drugs, and you know, there's 100% a time and a place for it. Not against it at all, but I do feel like whole body healing can come in so many other ways. And I had a lot of unresolved emotional trauma that I hadn't dealt with, that when I started working with Sandy, she sort of dug up that sort of stuff and said, you really need to start working on this. And when I did, I just felt like I was an onion and the layers were just peeling off me, and I felt lighter in myself. And you just don't realize it until you're doing it, because I do remember saying, no, I don't think I need to do that. Like, my life is really good. I love my job and I'm in this great space. And then when I started journaling, I started doing it, I was like, oh wow, these things are really coming out, you know? So there's definitely a lot of pieces to the puzzle, but I really do believe wholeheartedly that the whole body approach is the best way to heal. It is the only thing that worked for me, and I am really excited to start working with people and be able to help anybody else who is in their journey. So yeah, thank you for being here.